Pope Silverius was pope from the 8th of June 536 to his deposition in 537, a few months before his death. He was a legitimate son of Pope Hormedius, born before his father entered the priesthood. Silverius was probably consecrated on the 8th of June 536. He was a subdeacon when King Theodad of the Ostrogoths forced his election and consecration. Geoffrey Richards interprets his low rank prior to becoming pope as an indication that Theodad was eager to put a pro-Gothic candidate on the throne on the eve of the Gothic War and had passed over the entire diaconate as untrustworthy. The Liber Pontificalis alleges that Silverius had purchased his election from King Theodad. On the 9th of September 536, the Byzantine general Belarius entered Rome with the approval of Pope Silverius, Theodad's successor. Witigis gathered together an army and besieged Rome for several months, subjecting the city to privation and starvation. In the words of Richards, what followed is a tangled web of treachery and double-dealing as can be found anywhere in the papal annals. Several different versions of the course of events following the elevation of Silverius exist. In outline, all accounts agree. Silverius was deposed by Belarius in March of 537 and sent into exile. Vigilius, who was in Constantinople as papal legate, was brought to Rome to replace him. They differ over the motivations of the parties involved. The fullest account is in the Bavarium of Liberatus of Carthage, who portrays Vigilius as a greedy and treacherous pro-monothecite who ousted and virtually murdered his predecessor. In exchange for being made pope, Liberatus claims he promised Empress Theodora to restore the former patriarch of Constantinople. Artemis to his position, Silverius was sent into exile at Patria in Lycia, whose bishop petitioned the emperor for a fair trial for Silverius. However, when Silverius returned to Italy, instead of holding a trial, Belarius handed him over to Vigilius, who, according to the Liber Pontificalis, banished Silverius to the deserted island Polomia, part of the Pontine Islands, where he starved to death a few months later. The account in the Liber Pontificalis is hardly more favorable to Vigilius. That work agrees with Liberatus that the restoration of Athamas to the Patriarch was the cause of Silverius's deposition, but Vigilius was initially sent to persuade Silverius to agree with this, not to replace him. Silverius refused to this, and Vigilius then claimed to Belarius that Pope Silverius had written to Witigis offering to betray the city. Belarius did not believe this accusation, but Vigilius produced false witnesses to testify to this, and through persistence overcame his scruples. Silverius was summoned to the Petrian palace, where he was stripped of his vestments and handed over to Vigilius, who dispatched him into exile. Propicius omits all mention of religious controversy in Vigilius's actions. He writes that Silverius was accused of offering to betray Rome to the Goths. Upon learning of this, Belarius had him deposed, put in a monk's habit, and exiled to Greece. Several other senators were also banished from Rome at the same time on similar charges. Belarius then appointed Vigilius. Richard attempts to reconcile these divergent accounts into a unified account. He points out that Liberius wrote his Breviarium at the height of the three-chapter controversy, when Vigilius was being regarded by his opponents as an antichrist, and Liberatus was prominent among those opponents. And the Liber Pontificalis drew from an account written at the same time. Once these religious elements are removed, Richards agrees that it is clear the whole episode was political in nature. He points out for Justinian plans to recover Rome and Italy that there should be a pro-Eastern pope substituted as soon as possible. The ideal candidate was at hand in Constantinople. The deacon Vigilius's principal motivation throughout his career, as far as can be ascertained was the desire to be pope, and he was not really concerned about which fraction put him there. Canonizing Pope Silverius was later recognized as a saint by popular acclamation, and is now the patron saint of the island of Poncia, Italy. The first mention of his name in a list of saints dates to the 11th century. He is also called Saint Silverius, San Silvario. According to Ponza island legend, fishermen were on a small boat in a storm off Palomia, and they called on Saint Silverius for help. An apparition of Saint Silverius called them to Pomeronia, where they survived. This miracle made him venerated as a saint. Benedicat vos omnipotens Deus, Pater et Filius et Spiritus Sanctus. Amen.